Imagine you're about to run a live-streamed worship service, a school assembly, or a conference talk, and you've got a tiny budget but a huge need for reliable video. You've already scoped out a few PTZ options, read the specs, and now you're wondering whether you should drop a few $100 on a professional-grade camera or stick with the cheap webcam you've been using. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The real question is, will the FoMaKo 4K 20X PTZ camera actually deliver smooth, watchable footage without turning you into a full-time tech support person? That hesitation is common because PTZ cameras sit at a crossroads. They promise the flexibility of a pan-tilt-zoom head, the image quality of a 4K sensor, and the convenience of automated tracking. Yet they can also become a nightmare if the autofocus never locks, the menu is a maze, or the low-light performance turns a lit stage into a grainy mess. I spent the last week setting up a FoMaKo unit in 3 different environments: a church sanctuary, a high school classroom, and a small corporate boardroom to see if the hype matches the day-to-day reality. First off, let's talk about the core promise, a 4K UHD image with 20 optical zoom. In the church sanctuary, the camera sat 15 feet from the pulpit and was able to pull a clean close-up of the speaker without any digital zoom, preserving the detail you'd expect from a 38402160 sensor. The image stayed crisp even when the lighting was a mix of stage wash and spotlights, which is a good sign for low-light behavior. In the classroom, where fluorescent lights dominate and the lecturer moves around a lot, the picture stayed bright enough that you could still read the whiteboard text when you zoomed in. That tells me the sensor isn't as light-starved as some lower-end PTZ units that become noisy the moment you hit the 10 mark. Autofocus confidence is a big deal for anyone who isn't willing to spend minutes tweaking focus every time the speaker steps away from the podium. The FoMaKo's 3rd-generation AI auto-tracking actually locked onto the presenter's face and kept focus steady as they paced back and forth. I tested it by having the presenter walk out of the frame and re-enter, and the camera reacquired focus within a second or two. It didn't hunt like older models that stare at the screen while trying to find a sharp point. That said, the AI can be a bit too eager. If there's a bright logo on the backdrop, it sometimes latches onto that instead of the person. For most livestream setups where the background is relatively uniform, the tracking works well, but you might need to tweak the tracking sensitivity setting in the menu to avoid false locks. Speaking of the menu, the interface is web-based and reachable via any browser on the same LAN. You get sliders for pan, tilt, zoom, and a drop-down for AI tracking modes. It's not a touchscreen on the camera itself, so you won't be fiddling with tiny buttons in the middle of a service. However, the menu hierarchy can feel a little deep if you're a first-time PTZ user. The advanced tab hides things like NDI source naming and HDR settings, and you have to click through a few pages before you reach the exposure controls. For a tech-savvy production team, that's fine, but a small church volunteer might need a quick walkthrough before feeling comfortable. The good news is the camera ships with a short PDF guide that walks you through the most common setups, and because it's NDI certified, NDI 6 and NDI 3, once it's on the network, it shows up as a source in most streaming software without additional drivers. Powering the camera is another practical point. It's paintable, meaning a single Ethernet cable carries both data and power. In the boardroom scenario, I plugged the camera into a PO switch, and it powered up instantly. No need for an external power brick or a battery pack. That simplifies cable clutter and reduces the chance of an accidental unplug during a live event. The downside is that you're dependent on the network's power reliability. If your PO switch restarts, the camera reboots, and you lose a few seconds of footage. For mission-critical broadcasts, you might want an uninterruptible power supply, UPS, for the switch, but for most small-scale productions, that extra layer isn't a deal breaker. Now, who should actually buy this camera? If you're a church tech team that needs a single camera solution capable of switching between wide shots of the congregation and close-ups of the speaker, the FoMaKo's 20 optical zoom and AI tracking make it a strong contender. Schools that live stream lectures or performances will appreciate the 4K clarity and the fact that you can run the whole thing over one Ethernet cable, no extra HDMI splitters needed. Small production houses that already use NDI for multi-camera workflows will love the certified compatibility. You can add this PTZ to an existing NDI workflow without worrying about latency or format conversion. On the flip side, if you're a solo creator who primarily films on the go, or